Welcome back to J&J Dynasty. How about that? Just wanted to, well, hello, back here again. This episode, and I'm going to be airing this hopefully on Friday or Saturday, but I want you to be able to get your DraftKings lineups in. What this video is going to be for is for hopefully winning some money on your Sunday games. So I'm going to try and just do the Sunday first two rounds of games, right? The regular games, not the Sunday night game, not the Monday, not Thursday night, right? And what I'm going to try and do is maybe give you one, possibly two guys, but probably one guy who's going to be maybe inexpensive that you would want for DraftKings, who you would want to throw in your lineup. So that's what I'm going to kind of try and do, guys who I think, and I'll try and explain reasons why I, think that way. So obviously on Thursday night, whatever you do, the Buffalo and the Rams, you're not going to be dealing with any fantasy football or DraftKings on that as far as the weekly play, right? So I guess this is a little bit news and notes with the one standard PPR. This video is not really for that with the news and notes, but more so for the DraftKings fantasy football, right? I mean, if you want to take these guys and you're still looking for a player or two to try to maybe sneak away from a team, or maybe they're out there in the waiver wire, which most likely they're not in Dynasty. But yeah, so this is what we're going to be going for with that. So, all right, so let's get back Sunday, the noon games, right? New Orleans and Atlanta. New Orleans has a few guys that are probably going to be undervalued. Jameis Winston, I like if, depending on what that DraftKings actually put his price point at. Michael Thomas is probably going to be low. He's probably going to be less than Chris Olave. So those two guys I think are kind of good buys or good bets, I guess, depending. So, and most of those guys would probably be more middle of the road guys, or you would stack somebody else if you already have somebody that you're really wanting to feature as a lower price guy, or if you just have a mid-level lineup going in. Atlanta, Tyler Algier. I think that he's going to be the running back who is going to get goal line carries, and if they get down there, look for him to get a touchdown, look for him to get 50% of the workload, probably running the ball, and they're going to be a run-heavy team. So Tyler Algier is a guy who probably will be fairly inexpensive because he's probably seen as the backup. So, but he's probably going to get at least 50% of the work or usage. So that would be a guy or a reason why I would like him. All right. So the next game, Cleveland and Carolina. Cleveland, if you really are going to stretch it, maybe David Bell is a take a chance on me kind of guy, and that would be if you would score a touchdown, and that's if Brissett's going to throw him the ball. I mean, all the other guys are going to be probably valued too high that you're going to want on Cleveland because everybody knows about them and everybody wants them. So with that being said, let's go right to Carolina. The Carolina Panthers, there's two guys that I can think of if Baker Mayfield winds up being a decent quarterback. Marshall for Carolina is supposed to have a big year, but the guy that nobody is really thinking about, well, I mean, you can throw Robbie Anderson in there, but throw him out of the conversation because I do not like Robbie Anderson. So Laviska Shenault, maybe not week one, but watch what happens in week one with Laviska, because if they use him like this coaching staff used Curtis Samuel a couple of years ago, he could be a big-time fantasy star, where he's going to be like Debo Light, where he's going to be Curtis Samuel running the ball and receiving the ball. So that would be Laviska Shenault. All right. So those would be those would be guys that I'd be looking at. San Francisco and Chicago on Sunday. Really, there probably is no good values there. I mean, Kittle's not going to be a value. Debo's not going to be a value. Ayuk is probably not going to be a value. Lance is not going to be a value. What do you have left? The only value is if Mitchell doesn't start, Jeff Wilson If Wilson gets the playing time, or if Wilson's still injured, or Mitchell is still injured, or doesn't play, be all over that one, all right? Be all over Jeff Wilson Jr. And Chicago's offense, nobody likes any of them, except for Mooney. Fields, Fields could be a real big take a chance on me quarterback. But other than that, Herbert, the running back for Chicago, not really. So we'll just move right along. Pittsburgh. With the preseason that Pickens had, they're probably going to have him overvalued. Claypool is probably going to be undervalued, but both are probably bad. So probably not going to be anybody on Pittsburgh or Cincinnati. The only guy on the Cincinnati roster to really get a value in would be Boyd, and you're taking a chance if he's going to be the hot receiver that week. If he's a hot receiver, if he gets 6-8 targets, he catches 6 balls and a touchdown or 2, Boyd could blow up for Cincinnati. So that would be a guy that I would look at, maybe depending on what you need for a price point. He's going to be fine. He's probably going to get you 10 to 12 points regardless, because he's going to get 4 balls for 60 yards or 6 balls for 40 yards or whatever. So Boyd would be a fine play. A really sneaky guy might be Chris Evans at running back. So I'm just throwing that one out there. I'm not really planning on that one being a really sneaky, but there you go. So let's go to well, there's a couple more Sunday noon games here. Philadelphia and Detroit. DJ Shark should be on your list, and he may wind up getting placed in a higher value, but he should go off. I mean, a lot of money is going to be on Amon St. Brown, but I like DJ Shark overall for the year much better. All right, and I think that Hawkinson's probably going to be valued too highly for doing what is supposed to be done. For what you're going to want to do for filling out your lineup. Like I said, remember, these guys I'm trying to get below 3,500, below 4,000 points, so that way you can fill out your lineup with a couple of these guys maybe after you pick your best stars. So that's a big reason why I'm doing this. So me think here, Jared Goff, he had 40 points the first 2 weeks, and then he did nothing the rest of the year last year. Maybe he's going to blow up the first couple of weeks and then be dead. But I highly doubt that. Philadelphia. It's great scanning my head. I mean, other than Gainwell, that's the only guy I can really think of is Kenneth Gainwell. And that's going to be depending upon if Sanders starts. Well, I mean, regardless if Sanders starts. If Sanders starts, he's probably going to get all the third down work. He's probably going to get some goal line work. He had the most red zone touches, so Kenneth Gainwell is probably my choice for Philadelphia, but I don't know if he's going to be cheap enough. That's the problem with that. So let's move on to the next game, Indianapolis and Houston. Houston should have a bunch of guys who could be very inexpensive and still produce points because they're going to be behind, especially throwing the ball. So you don't want anything to do with Pierce because he's going to be valued too high as far as we're talking about with this video, right? Davis Mills would be a quarterback that you can probably get pretty cheap. Nico Collins is probably going to be fairly cheap. Brevin Jordan is probably going to be very cheap. So those are 3 guys that you could probably fill out your lineup if you need to, depending on how you want to start your lineup and how you want to pay for your big dollar guys, right? As far as Indianapolis, they've got a couple of receivers. Don't forget about Paris Campbell, and don't forget about Alec Pierce. Nyheim Hines could be okay if he scores a touchdown. He's not going to be like make you a lot of money, but if you want to fill in and not lose, he probably could be there because he's probably going to get a few of the a few catches. So he could be good for 10, 12 points. So like I said, I mean, these guys aren't the world beaters, but if you pick an all-star lineup, you just want to fill in with some guys. These are some of the guys that you may want to take a look at. Okay. So moving on, New England and Miami. thinking about Miami's roster, I mean, everybody is overhyped on that roster. One guy maybe you could get would be Mostert, and he's probably going to be too much. So Raheem Mostert maybe in Miami, as far as a fill-in at the bottom of your lineup. So let's think here about the wide receivers and everything in New England. So, I mean, really the only guys I can think of in New England would be maybe the tight ends, which would be Smith and Hunter Henry, right? Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. But I think that they're going to be too high for price anyways. So, don't see a lot of value there. So let's go on to the next Sunday game with Baltimore and the Jets. A lot of people are really high on Isaiah Likely, but I'm not for this type of game or for early in the year. If Andrews goes down, yes, but not really right now, because he's probably not going to get enough playing time to do that. One guy that could pop off for Baltimore would be Kenyon Drake. He just came over last week. He will probably be receiving a lot of the balls. If J.K. Dobbins isn't full time to go, I'm kind of thinking that Drake might get about 50% of the backfield work, with Mike Davis getting a quarter and J.K. Dobbins getting a quarter, so that way they can bring Dobbins along slowly. So maybe that is the guy that you really want to look for from Baltimore. Don't really want any of the receivers. Bateman's going to be priced too high. Andrews is too high. So, that's that kind of deal. So let's look at the Jets. The Jets have a tight end that's going to be way undervalued. Tyler Conklin would be a good guy to get. Flacco is known to throw to tight ends. He had decent tight ends in Baltimore when he was there. And so he does throw to tight ends. He's not going to get a lot of extra time to sit in the pocket for the deep routes. So look for Conklin. And it seems like that offense is, well, it's pretty tight end friendly based off of the preseason. So we have that going for us. How many more do we got here on Sunday? Looking at my cheat sheet. What? My word. Let's do this then. Gotta do this. Oh, that's it. That's it. So let's see here. So I guess the next game, wow, was Washington and Jacksonville. One of the guys who is going to be too much, but is a guy that is going to be a mid-level that you may want to watch all year, is going to be Marvin Jones. He might be pretty cheap this week because of his age and where he's getting his average draft position, but he is going to want to be in one of the starters back there. Zay Jones, if you want to take a shot at a couple of deep balls, that might be okay. But other than that, no. Jacksonville, the running backs are going to be too high. Don't really count on the tight end there. Yeah, not so much. So with Washington, the only guy that I can really think of that is going to be flying under the radar is probably Curtis Samuel. And he is going to be a starting wide receiver for them. He is going to be basically Debo Light. I think I kind of said this already. But Curtis Samuel for Washington is going to run the ball. He's going to catch some balls. So if they use him the way that Laviska Shenault is going to be used, like he was used earlier, or his last year in Carolina when this coaching staff left, well, then you'll have something there with Curtis Samuel. So it all depends on how healthy he is and how they use him. So with that being said, let's just keep this thing right on a chugging, right? So the Giants and Tennessee. The Giants, when I first think of it, I think of Kadarius Toney and Robinson, the wide receivers. I don't think that Tony's going to be at a discount, but Wan'Dale Robinson probably will be. Now, I do not like the tight ends in New York. Jones has never proven or thrown to the tight ends a lot. So it's not something that I'm going to say is going to be something good. Galladay, I do not like. I'm not going to say that. Shepard's probably not going to play. Slayton's just there. So, I mean, you don't want Daniel Jones. So there's basically nothing there. I mean, check out Kadarius Toney's value, but more than likely Wan'Dale Robinson if you have to throw somebody in there off that team. The Titans. If he scores a touchdown, Banks is the guy. You know what Derrick Henry's going to do. You know what Tannehill's going to do. You know what Robert Woods is going to do, and he's not going to get a big discount because he's going to be the number one wide receiver there, theoretically. So there's no real discounts there. I mean, the only thing that's going to happen is if Derrick Henry gets hurt, Hilliard is going to come in for him, and you don't really want to put your DraftKings lineup in based off of calling for an injury. So I would not recommend that. So with that being said, let's move on to another afternoon game here with Kansas City and Arizona. Kansas City has Marquez Valdez-Scantling. We will see if he winds up being cheap enough for this exercise. He might wind up being a mid-level guy, but I think that him and Mahomes have an understanding, I guess, that Valdez-Scantling is going to drop a few balls, but Mahomes is still going to throw it to him because he makes plays. Well, Rodgers would not throw him the ball because he would drop wide open passes, and I think that got into his head even more, which created more of a problem. Mahomes is used to Tyreek Hill dropping balls because Tyreek Hill does not have the best hands. So, with that being said, Valdez-Scantling's just like Tyreek for him, except a bigger target. So I think that Mahomes likes him. I don't like Valdez-Scantling, himself, but I do think that that's going to be something that winds up being an issue. That Valdez-Scantling is going to be a hot commodity, and he's going to rise up value charts in things like DraftKings. So he's gonna score some big touchdowns, and he's gonna do 2 in 1 week, and he's not gonna do anything for 3 weeks. But when you put him in your lineup and he hits, he's gonna be good. Okay, so let's go on. That's probably the only thing I can say for Kansas City because everybody else is, Arizona. Week 1, Trey McBride might be a sneaky option if Zach Ertz is not playing. Murray has shown a propensity in the last couple of years to hit a featured tight end, so a tight end might be worth something there. Another guy would be A.J. Green based off his age. Guys may not be going after him, or they may have him very low as far as the value. Rondell Moore too, but he was featured a lot at the beginning of last year, and then he faded away. Maybe they're going to come out of the gate and do that also again. So those are a couple guys there. All right. So we're down to the 2 final remaining games, Las Vegas and the Chargers, right? The LA team, Las Vegas and Los Angeles Chargers. One guy for Vegas, but he's probably going to be too high, is Hunter Renfrow. And I don't see him having a big game, but maybe versus his dollar value. So I don't really recommend that. Other than that, I don't see a lot of value based off of where guys are going to be or what their dollar figure is going to be. One guy that you might want to try looking out for the Chargers is going to be Joshua Kelly. I'm assuming he's going to be Eckler's backup. He can wind up catching 3, 4, 5 balls if he gets in the end zone. He could, turn a 15-point game out for you conceivably with a couple of rushes too. So Joshua Kelly would be one guy that I would look for. Is it Josh Kelly? Yeah, and Josh Palmer. So you got those two guys confused, but Josh Palmer is the wide receiver there. So if Palmer is supposed to be the 3rd wide receiver, if he gets off to a hot start with Herbert, he probably should be valued pretty low based off of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So Josh Palmer at wide receiver, Josh Kelly for running back for the Chargers. So they bring us down to the last matchup, which would be Green Bay and Minnesota. based off of what is going to be out there, I don't see how you're going to get anybody from the Vikings other than maybe Irv Smith at a good price point. Dalvin Cook's not going to be there. Kirk Cousins is not going to be there. Thielen's not going to be there. Jefferson's not going to be there. All right, so you're basically left with a guy who's going to be starting, and that's going to be Irv Smith. With Kirk Cousins' propensity to throw 2 tight ends, I like that play actually, and I think that he's going to be exactly the type of player that this video was intended to expose. Right? Let's go to Green Bay. Well, we know that Dillon and Jones and Rodgers are going to be priced out of this video, right? So we can cut them off the top. Romeo Doubs is probably going to be the 4th receiver or more, so we can probably cut him out. Sammy Watkins is supposed to be starting for Allen Lazard, so we can probably cut Lazard out. So that really leaves us with 3 options, well, maybe 4. The 3 options are Rodgers, Amari Rodgers, Watkins, and Cobb. So you pick your poison with that. And if Watkins is supposed to be starting for Lazard already, Watkins' value might be elevated already. So those are the 3 wide receiver candidates. Take in consideration the week that Amari Rodgers was down. The week Adams was down last year, Cobb put up game-winning numbers. So keep that in mind. So Cobb could start off the year hot. The other guy who would be in this realm, and if he plays, Robert Tonyan, another tight end. Keep an eye on Robert Tonyan for that value. So that's going to be your Sunday day game. DraftKings values or players to watch for in week 1. So that's what I have for that. Hopefully I will try to make this a reoccurring weekly feature. So hopefully maybe you can watch this video and bring up or pull out a few guys extra that you want to insert in your lineup if you want to start off with a stacked lineup. So that's that for this week and Dynasty football. So once again, J&J Dynasty saying take care.